Hey, welcome to Key and Carry, where we key.
Harry,
I'm Damon,
I'm Troy.
and we back to being visual.
Back with
Don't
the
you miss our
visual.
faces? So we're gonna review Bad Hair, the new release on Hulu, directed by Justin Simien of Dear White People fame, and star-studded. All types of people are in it, starring newcomer Elle Lorraine. I've never seen her in anything besides this.
Yeah.
And then of course Vanessa Williams, Blair Underwood, Lena Waithe, a bunch of people that I literally would run out of breath naming. What were your initial thoughts on the movie?
I liked it. First, I liked that it was set in the 80s. And then I also liked how it talked about, I guess, just the struggles that women of color go through with like their hair and like their hair defining them. I also like how they incorporated kind of like folklores or urban legends from like slavery and they kind of incorporated it with current times. I thought that was dope. But overall, I like the movie.
I don't think I liked it as much as you liked it, but I think it was a good time, honestly. Like, I feel like it kind of reminded me of those like campy like B movies where it's
Yeah.
like it's not really done well, but like you have a good time watching it.
Mhm.
And so like I just felt like if you're bored and you're with your friends and you have wine, put this movie on and you'll have a good time because it,
Definitely.
it is interesting. It's not boring, I'll say that. But I think the first part took itself a little too seriously. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the first part, it took a while to get into like the campiness, into like the
Yeah.
funny part of it. Cause like when I
Mhm.
first watched it, when I watched the trailer, I was like, okay, it's not serious. But then as I watched the first part of the movie, I was like, okay, maybe it is serious. And so because I thought it was serious, I started to critique it as if they were serious. And so I was like, oh, this movie isn't good at all. And then once, the first death happened and it started to get more campy and more like
Yeah.
satirical, I was like, oh, like, okay, this is funny. Like, I was also drinking rum, I'm not gonna lie. So maybe the rum kicked in at that point. And I started to really get into the full key of the movie. I feel like they could have amped up, they could have exaggerated more, of the jokes and the personalities that were in the movie. But I feel like I feel like this whole movie was like an SNL skit. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it started off as like, yeah, like an SNL skit or like a skit on like a comedy show. And then they were like, y'all, let's just make a movie out of this. Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this could have just been a skit. Or I feel like it could have been maybe a part of an anthology series.
Mhm.
I feel like that would have been cool. But I don't know. I don't know if this particular movie, the subject could have had a whole movie, but I don't know if this particular movie needed a whole movie.
Now
Um,
that you mention that does seem, or this movie does seem like something that could have been in like the Tales from the Hood kind of scenario. Just
mhm,
like it's just being so kind of quirky and just a movie just about hair. It
right.
definitely does seem like it could have been like a movie thrown into like one of those like movie blocks or whatever.
So let's get into the budget. But like horror movies are known for being low cost, high reward. You can make a horror movie for a low amount of money, but get a high reward because people, like to watch horror movies. But I feel like this movie had an $8 million budget, and honestly, the second time I watched it, I was like, where did that budget? Like, I just watched it thinking, like, where did that budget go? It might have went to the cameos because, like we said, there were so many, from Kelly Rowland to Usher to Laverne Cox. I just feel like everybody was like, I'll be in it, like, so
Can I
um
also shout out my girl Michelle Hurd real quick? The first African American detective from, I'm sorry, the first African American female detective from Law and Order SVU. I think she did like two
Nice.
seasons from 99 to 2001. And then she like stepped away from the show. But shout out to my girl Michelle Hurd.
Was
Just
it
watching the
SVU?
yeah,
Okay.
with Benson and Stabler.
Stabler. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
she looks super familiar. I was like, why she look so familiar? You know who I thought she was? Why did I think she was Miss Parker from Friday?
Not the one with the shorts that was watering the lawn.
Yes. I was like, oh, is that? is that the woman from Friday? And then I was like, maybe not. Like, but she kind of looked like her. I don't know. But
Yeah, this movie has so many damn cameos,
yeah,
and I
so
don't understand. Like,
many.
one cameo is like another person. Like
Yeah.
I told you earlier, I thought Kelly Rowland's character, when she took off the hat, I thought it was gonna be Vanessa Bell Calloway. I'm like, God damn, this movie is just full of fucking A-list actors, but it turned out to be Kelly Rowland. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I was here for it.
I'm kind of I'm glad it was Kelly Rowland. I knew they were
Yeah.
gonna choose somebody that does music.
Mm-hmm.
You know who I think also would have been a good pick, maybe?
Who?
Normani, maybe. I feel
Okay.
like would have been like a cute look, maybe. But but I like Kelly Rowland. I liked her in
Yeah.
the movie. Some people were actually saying that this movie should have been about her. Like she should have been the lead in the movie. And I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since she's already so high up. Like, you know, that battle becomes even more intense of like, do I
Mm-hmm.
lose who I am to like get this
Mm-hmm.
fame? Whereas the actual lead was more lower. So it was, you know, a little different. But yeah, the budget. I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like the effects weren't good, but I feel like it added to the humor of the
Yeah.
movie. Like when the I was about to say nail shop, the hair shop massacre was the funniest shit ever. Like that shit was so funny. But I was like, these effects are like trash, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it added to the comedy. Like it added to like the humor of it. Cause I was like, this is so stupid. Like these effects are so bad. But yeah, I was like, it must not have been the effects. And then I just wanted to talk about how like okay, it's set in the 80s and I don't know if they shot this movie on film or if they shot it digitally and used a film filter like or like a grain filter to make it look like it was film, but that it wasn't good. It didn't look good at all. I
Mm-hmm.
wish they would have just either shot it on film, even though I'm pretty sure film is more expensive to film on. It's yeah, it's more costly to film on film than digital. But I wish they would have just either went with film or like just shot it regular. Like we didn't need the grain. We didn't need it to look like that.
I
But
did kind of get that. Like it was set in the 80s, but I feel like it didn't have that 80s kind of, or I kind of felt like it was too slow for like a film to be set in the 80s.
mhm,
It kind of didn't have that 80s energy I was looking for. We know it's kind of like chaotic and there's a lot of stuff going on. I get it, it's a horror movie, but the buildup was I just didn't get 80s from it. I feel like they
yeah.
just took people from 2020 and just threw them in some clothes from the 80s. It was like, okay, you're a fucking TV producer in the 80s. I just didn't get that vibe. I didn't get the 80s feel from the movie.
It kind of seemed like a movie that it kind of seemed like it kind of seemed like a episode of a sitcom, like a out of you
Mm-hmm.
know how like sitcoms have out of genre episodes where it's
Yeah.
like they take you completely out of like what's normal on the show and they put it in like a different either it's a different genre or a different decade. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of what it reminded me of. It kind of reminded me of like oh, these characters are normally in 2020, but for this episode, we're flashing back to the 80s. Like there
Mm-hmm.
was something about it that just seems so not 80s, but like they were trying to be 80s.
When we watched what was it, Harlem Nights?
Hmm.
That lingo from the 30s and the 40s that made you feel like shit, I might be watching a movie from the 30s. So I feel
Right.
like that they missed their mark with capitalizing it being on like the 80s.
So this movie is written and directed by Justin Simien, like we said, but I don't know. I just was wondering like what the movie would be like if it was written by a black woman versus a black man. Like not to say that like he wouldn't know what it's like cuz black men do have to deal with, you know, politics regarding their hair. Not as much as black women, but you know, they do have to deal with that to some extent. But and also not to say that you can't write about something that you've never experienced, but I don't know. I just feel like the movie kind of had a disconnect to what it was actually trying to talk about. Like I feel like the movie took a while to actually get to like what, you know, like it took so long to like establish like who it spent so long establishing the characters that it was like, okay, but what is this movie actually about? And I remember I read a review, the New York Times review about it, and they were saying how like just like how like, oh, like they introduce how she's having man trouble, but like why can't you focus more on like her identity in her hair
Right.
versus this like issue with her dealing with this man, you know? So I don't know. I just wonder what it would have been like if it was written by somebody who maybe is more can more so identify with what the movie is talking about. Like,
I'm glad you brought that up because whenever she would go to like whenever like a relative of hers is on a camera, they would be like, "Oh, how's Julius?" or "What does Julius think of like your makeover?" And I'm like, "Well, fuck Julius, shit. How does she feel about her makeover? Like
mm-hmm,
her, like we saw her trying to, I guess, work her way up at a company that she had been at for a while,
mm-hmm,
and I feel like the movie should have just focused on that, like her confidence." And then her getting this weave installed, and then how her confidence just soars.
mm-hmm,
It kind of we got a little bit of not a little bit, but we got a lack of character development from well, not really Anna, but her character prior to her getting the weave. Like
right.
she was kind of like just walked all over, and people just thought she was there, and then I kind of wanted to see that a little bit more, and then it built up into her being like this confident, just uberly strong or like super strong woman. We kind of didn't get that. I feel like when she was post weave, not post weave, I'm sorry, when she pre weave before she got the installment, it was she can't pay her rent, and then like Julius stole her job, and then Julius was fucking the boss or whatever. But we didn't get the character development for Anna before she got
Don't
installment.
scoot past that messiness.
We'll get to it. We'll talk about it. Yeah, like you said, I kind of feel like it was a good movie, but it was kind of all over the place. Like
Mm.
they started with her having a struggle, and then she went and got the weave, and then all of a sudden she's like a serial killer. So
Yeah, I think the film bit off more than it could chew. I think one, you have to deal with this big conversation of hair, black people in our hair and assimilation and all of that, and processed hair versus your natural hair. Then you're trying to funnel that through like a satirical horror context. So it's like
mhm,
you have all these things you're trying to do, which can be done, but I just think that the script didn't really meet the it didn't meet the mark. I still had a good time watching it. Like the scenes where like the murder scenes, besides the first scene or the first murder scene where her like landlord is trying to assault her, and
yeah,
like, that scene was but like I did think I did think it was funny when she after she murdered him, after her hair murdered him, she just like threw his body into the dumpster, but she
yeah.
threw it from like the seventh floor. Like, and you just
Mhm.
watch his body fall out of the thing into the dumpster.
Dumpster.
That was
Mhm.
funny. Like, I was laughing. Like,
Literally just trash that nigga like it was nothing.
yes,
And she was really petite.
she
Like
was. You think her hair did it?
it was definitely her wig.
Yeah, her wig did that.
Why do I feel like Heidi from Flavor of Love might have had the same wig? I feel like Heidi's wig was possessed by a few spirits.
It seemed like it might be. That's the real moss hair girl right there.
I'm also curious about that folklore. Like
I thought it was interesting. I
I,
thought,
I the witches, the hair from witches was on
mhm,
the tree. I guess the lady thought it was moss, but
mhm,
she made a wig out of it and it started killing people. I just thought
yeah,
that was very interesting. Like,
yeah. I thought it was, yeah. I mean, like, I don't really know much about like slave lore like that,
mhm,
but I do think it's interesting. And like, honestly, like, um, one of the most interesting parts of this movie to me was the conversations that Anna had with her uncle,
Mhm,
Blair Underwood's character, just because I just think it's interesting talking about, especially like as Black Americans, like
mhm,
we're so unique in the sense that like we did have certain aspects of us stripped from us, like
mhm,
certain like cultural traditions like from Africa stripped from us. And then you have like the customs and the traditions that we had in during slavery, but like I feel like those also got buried because tend to like people tend to be embarrassed, and like people associate like things that we did during slavery with pain and trauma. So I feel like
mhm.
we don't always cling to those things. I mean, we do, but like not as much as we could because, you know, the trauma of slavery. So I just thought it was interesting how like we do lose those things, but
Mhm,
like I feel like that's kind of the main theme of the movie, how like, oh, you can lose those things, but those things are always within you
mhm.
because, you know, your ancestors, did it.
Well, Anna always had that confidence in her. Like
Hmm.
she always had that strength in her, but I guess it's just weird that it didn't. All it took for her to realize it was that for her to get a weave installed. Prior to her even getting like her hair installed, her uncle was like, you don't know who you are, like, or you might not know who you are. And
Hmm.
then she gets this wig installed, and then she's went fucking berserker.
And that's touched on like throughout the film. Like Blair Underwood talks about how like, oh, I wish I had the quote, but he talks about how like I guess when she laughed at the whole slave lord thing, he was saying how like, oh, like you don't even know who you truly are. Like you're laughing at that, but that's who you are. Like that's what your ancestors thought and that's what they practiced. And so it's like you don't even know who you truly are. And then I know when she went to visit Laverne Cox's character to get her hair done,
Mhm.
Laverne Cox she said something about like, oh, you're gonna find out who you truly are with this wig, or like it's gonna bring out who you truly are. And then I think somebody else in the movie said something about just like her knowing who she is. And I was like, that's so interesting that throughout the movie, I mean, the whole movie is really just about identity and like how that identity develops, versus, the things that you come in contact with, the experiences that you have, what you look like, what you choose to do with your body and your appearance. So I just thought it was interesting that like they continue to touch on that, like, who are you really, as a Black American, as someone who, has these ancestors came from Africa with these traditions, they also went through slavery and now you are in current day living your life in this mix of culture, I guess.
Right.
So
Also, her being like a black woman, I wanted, and I guess we could call it corporate America, which was basically dominated by white people.
James
So,
Vanderbeek.
but just that scene where she's talking to, where Anna is talking to Zora, and Zora was like, not really, kind of like you need to polish up your appearance, like. You work in corporate America. Like if you went to any other building in this neighborhood, you wouldn't make it past reception. So
Hmm.
it's just weird that a lot of people fight with that, especially working in like an environment like that where you look different and then you have people who don't notice you or they notice you just because you look different. So
Right.
it was just interesting to see like Zora tell her like, in this industry you have to look a certain way if you want to elevate, and which is fucked up. Like I'm not saying I agree with that. It's a horrible thing to like. It's a horrible predicament to put on anybody. But Anna's response to like having to change her appearance versus like her homegirls, I think it was,
Sister Girl.
yeah, sister girl. That's who
Hmm.
it was. The one with that badass wig. Also, we get to her fit when it was like hosting the show. That damn polka dot dress she had on.
I was into it. It was kind of giving me a Versace tee. Like it was
Remember,
giving me Versace.
because she was like, she was gonna think about changing, and then the next scene, she was in Zora's office with a wig and like a dress on. So I was like,
Oh, you're talking about the floral dress.
oh, it was floral. Okay,
Okay,
the
I thought
floral
you were talking about the dress that she wore at
show.
the show. Yeah, that was giving me a Versace. The At the
Okay,
show was giving me Versace, but oh, you're talking about the dress. Okay, the floral dress. Yeah.
Yeah, the floral dress. But it's just funny that like it's not funny, but it's crazy like how Anna was like, I want to do this to, I guess to level, not really level up, but to grow within the company or advance with the company or whatever. And her
Mm.
home sister girl was like, "Fuck that shit!" Like, I'm not changed for this, but
Yeah.
it was just funny that she was like, "I'm not gonna change," and then literally like the next scene, she's in Zora's office in a full like skin tight dress
Right.
and bundles. So I was just like,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's something that like we all kind of can identify with
mhm,
because like I feel like we all kind of deal with like wanting to be yourself but knowing that yourself isn't necessarily accepted in corporate America or even just
mhm,
even in school or just in the general society. So it's like, oh, like do I be myself and kind of deal with being held back because I'm being myself? Or do I change myself even though this isn't who I truly am and like, you know, get ahead, but now I'm not being my full self. I have to
right.
live with the fact that I changed myself
Mm.
so that I could fit into this Eurocentric beauty standard, I guess.
And, it's crazy. That's kind of what Anna was trying to explain to Sister Girl, or is it Sister Soldier? So Sister
Sister
Girl.
girl, sister soldier.
Sister Girl. My goodness. What she was trying to explain to Sister Girl, basically like you're still who you are. You still have your integrity. You still have your
Mhm.
moral. You still have your values. Like you're still you on the inside. It's just your outer appearance has changed.
Mhm.
Like you could put on a million different wigs, but as long as you're true to who you are and you know who you are, that will never change. And then,
But I think that's also what the movie is kind of hinting at. Like, yeah, like obviously, if you put on a wig, like that doesn't change who you are. Like you are still who you are. It kind of speaks to how like your physical appearance is an expression of who you are. Because if you don't want to look like this, then you change yourself. That's gonna make a difference than if you didn't care or if you wanted to look that way. So I feel like for Sister Girl, she didn't want to look that way. And so for her to change herself, it meant something to her because
yeah,
we all tend to attribute our physical appearance to our expression. Like we dress and we appear how we want to be seen, and how we want to express ourselves. So I feel like Anna was kind of trying to like water it down, but in reality, you change like appearance matters and appearance is an expression of who you are.
I get what you mean.
I feel like Anna may not have had that that strong sense of who she was at that moment, so she was able to change herself so
Mm-hmm.
quickly versus Sister Girl who may have,
Yeah,
you know.
that makes sense. But it's also funny since you put it like that, how Edna kind of read Anna for, I guess, her decision to start wearing a weave. She's
Mm,
been like, you put the weave in your head and it changed you. But then
mm,
later in the salon, before she got took the fuck out, she was like, I talk a lot of shit, but I admire you for doing what you had to do to get where you had to go. Like,
mhm.
you basically said, like, you know how hard it is for any person of color to get into the position that you are in. Like,
Right.
so she was
Uh,
like, I talk shit, I'll drag you for wearing a wig, but that wig is bad as hell. And it was a badass wig.
it was a 2020 wig in
It was
1989. Like
a 32-inch 2020 wig in 1989.
I was like, did she travel to the future to
Mhm.
get this wig and then come back? Because I'm like, her wig is way more advanced than everybody
Yeah.
else in this movie's wig. It's almost like weaves are bad, but I
Mhm.
think in 2020, I don't think that's what we necessarily need to hear. I feel like what we need to hear is that you can wear your, I mean, they kind of added this in a little bit, but like you can wear your hair however you want. I feel like that's the main argument, or that's what should be the main argument at this point is
Right.
wear your hair how you want. If you want to wear a wig, wear a wig. If you want to wear,
Mhm.
your hair and like an afro, wear an afro. If you want a perm, wear a perm. It's all about your individual choice. But I feel like so much of the movie spends its time saying like weaves are bad, but then again, it's like I guess you changing yourself is bad, not necessarily the weave. Can we talk about how tender-headed she was?
Yes. Like, Virgie, I guess that was Laverne Cox's character's name. I don't know
Mhm.
if that was the character name or if that was the name of the salon, but like all like Laverne Cox's character, all she did was like part Anna's hair, and she just started like whimpering, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Girl, she didn't even comb it.
She
She
didn't.
literally just part her hair, and you're already like whining." But
She would flip her hair and then be like, "Ow!" And I'm like, "What?" I mean, but it was sewn into her scalp, so
so
I
hold
could
on,
imagine.
let's get into this, people, because
Yeah.
the girl Anna got a sew in, and the stylist sewed the wig to her scalp. Like, not she braided her hair. She didn't attach the threads to the braid. She literally threaded the fucking hair to her scalp. And I was just like, first of all, why would you sit through that shit? Why
You
would
know
you
how
sit
much
through
that had to hurt for her to continue to
so
dig
pain?
that needle into her scalp?
Not
Like,
only that, but she just braided her hair, so you already know her scalp was on fire. You already
yes.
know this lady's scalp is on fire, and then you gonna thread a fucking wig to her scalp? Like, no, absolutely not. No, that scene made me and this bitch so nauseous. Like when I was just ready to end that damn movie, like right there.
Honestly, that was the most to me. That was just like because this movie isn't scary at
Mm-hmm.
all. Like a child could watch this movie; it's not that scary. But that was the most like honestly like anxiety inducing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that made me the most. I mean, besides the she almost got raped, but like besides that, like that was the most like kind of like intense, like kind of
Mm-hmm.
like part of the
My
movie.
my anxiety went through the roof
Yeah, because it was
just
just
because.
like the braiding, and it's just like I don't know, just the fact that she was doing it so like hard, like she was doing it
Mm-hmm.
so quickly and it was so tight and she
Mm-hmm.
was crying and she was just they really that part was really good. I like that part because it was like ooh, but it also had the sense of like humor to it, just because like
Yeah.
I don't know, like she's tender headed, like I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
like I like that part of the movie. It was
You
pretty
know what
good.
that kind of reminded, or what that scene reminds me of? All
What?
of the times like the contestants on America's Next Top Model like had to get a sew in, and they had like a horrible experience. Like
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many times like a girl would go to get like a sew in, and they would start braiding her hair, and then she'd be like, "Ah, the braids are too tight, like I can't take it." And
Yeah. I also like the scene where she's about to, or she's like sleeping with her ex. Like she goes back to his apartment and they have sex.
Mhm,
And like she like ties him up. And I feel like that was another opportunity where they really could have went even further and like the
mhm.
set like in the exaggeration to make it even like more funny. But like I don't know. I don't know, it wasn't as funny as it could have been, I guess. But it was still pretty funny. I thought that was a funny part.
You know what scene like stuck out to me, and it had me like, "What the fuck?" After she killed the tenant, and she went in the bathroom, and her hair went crazy, and then it was just bone straight. I was like, "What the fuck just happened?" I was like, "What is going on?" That damn scene, she went in the bathroom, then her hair was like this, and then the wig went straight. I was like, "Bro, what the fuck is going on, dog?"
I was screaming because the effects were bad. I mean, they weren't terrible at that point. They get way worse. At that point, it was funny because it was just like, and is this a fucked up version of Little Shop of Horrors where she has to feed her hair? This basically is Little Shop of Horrors. Like she had to feed her hair for it to be okay. Like it was everything but the like feed me Seymour. Like that was the only thing that like it was missing in the musical or the songs from the
My
musical. Oh,
goodness, yes. Anna went nutty boo in the bathroom,
she
and I won't
did.
never say that
Wouldn't you too? First of all, you almost got assaulted,
again.
and then
Very
you
true.
murdered your landlord.
Very true.
But also free rent,
Very true.
like at least for a couple, like a month maybe. Why did Anna get possessed by the hair witches? Like everybody else got possessed besides her. Even her friend,
Right.
even sister girl, like she got possessed way quicker than Anna. But Anna
Mm-hmm.
never got possessed. So I was like, maybe it's one of those things where like it attacks you when you don't know what's happening because she read the Moss Girl thing. Like her mind was
Oh, okay.
already like thinking about it. I don't know. But to me, I was like, this is inconsistent. Like, I was like, you know, she
I
should have
forgot.
also been possessed.
Yeah, I forgot that she read that like that folklore.
Hmm.
basically what the movie was based on. But
Right.
I forgot that she read that, so I wonder if that did have some type of effect on like them not being able to possess her as quickly as like the other women who had got a wig installed.
Right.
Can I also mention one more quick point? Can I also mention that I thought the receptionist at the hair salon was Ronnie from the Players Club? I was like, is that look at Ronnie or Crystal Wilson? Crystal Wilson. Let me call her by her government. I really thought that that was Crystal.
I
And
run this salon. Anything I want, I get.
that includes you, Anna.
Yes. You know, weave is a girl's best friend. I feel like this movie could have been a skit on her show. Like, I don't know. I just get skit from this movie.
Mhm.
So I don't know. Like, it just gave me skit. I just want to say shout out to Ashley Blaine. She used to be a part of this this network called Black and Sexy TV, and she used to be
Okay.
on one of their web shows, their web series. And I used to watch that web series when I was in what, like high school, college or whatever. And it's just so funny to see her like on this like television show. Now, I mean, even when I saw her on when I knew she was on Dear White People, I just thought it was so like cool that like here this actress that like started on a web series and now
Mhm.
she's like literally on TV and on Hulu, you know, like so I was like that's super dope to see her on there. But yeah, she was in there. She played the the assistant that looked like a flight attendant the whole movie.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was the flight attendant. Flight, especially in the scene where I think Anna had the first meeting with Zora. The camera kind of panned out on her like shoulder pad, and I'm like,
Mhm.
who the fuck is in this badass boss and this structured ass shoulder pad? And it was the girl Rosalind, my girl.
Yes. I
Oz.
fuck with Rosalind. She had one of the best hairstyles outside of
She
Lena
did.
Waithe's character.
She did. Who
Like,
was your favorite? Or I should say, which actor had the best cameo?
um, I guess I would say Kelly Rowland. I
Okay.
think, but I feel
Okay.
like for this movie to be a comedy, a horror comedy, satirical, it didn't have that many comedians in the like front seat of this movie, and it also didn't really have that many like I don't know, like I mean it has some comedic moments, but I feel like a lot of the times I was laughing at the movie and not with the movie, which is fine. I mean it's a movie, who cares? But yeah, I don't I feel like this movie could have had more comedians in it.
I agree.
But for the people that it had in it, it was still funny. Can we
Mhm.
also talk about the awkwardness in the awkwardness between her and her family? Like, I
Yeah.
guess it's supposed to be like she's the outcast and she was adopted. Or I don't think was she adopted? No, she well, obviously they technically adopted her because, but I guess that was her aunt and uncle and her cousin.
Yeah.
But there was just this weird tension between her and her family. Like it was so odd. And I was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get why that's a thing. Maybe because the only thing I could gather from it was that her family was super judgmental and super like
Mhm.
critical of her. And I guess that's what, you know, that adds to the whole thing of like your family is critical of you, your job is critical of you, like, you know. And I guess that was kind of the thing that pushed her to get the weave because her family
Yeah.
was like, where, you know, your job, like what's going on, you know. So she had to compete with her shady ass cousin. So you
Her
know,
cousin was shady as fuck.
her cousin was very shady.
I might be getting my own show. Oh, Anna, when does it air? Like,
Yeah.
girl,
Then
fuck your
peep the
job.
auntie. The auntie was like, "Oh, your job isn't in jeopardy, is it?" I was like, "Damn!" Like, I was like, but she gave her money though, so I
Yeah,
guess they meant
the
well.
real one for giving her
Yeah,
that, for loaning her that 500.
it's weird because they had tension in the movie, but every like all three of the her family members also have moments where they're like helping her.
Yeah.
Like her cousin sister was kind of shady, but then like
Mhm.
there were parts where she was like, oh, like they have like that friendly, like, you know,
Yeah.
bonding moment in her apartment. And then Blair Underwood's character, like he was like kind of rude to her during the when she was talking about the slave lord stuff, but then he was
Mhm.
like, oh, like I'm sorry that I was so hard on you about that, and like he helps her with telling her about the moss girl, and then even her aunt gives her money. So
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like a love hate relationship.
Is it me or is it kind of almost kind of simple that her aunt hid money in the kitchen under the under like the utensil pocket or whatever? Like
Yeah, I mean,
I get everybody has like a hiding spot in their house, but in the
yeah,
kitchen, under the goddamn utensil rack, like, come on, baby girl. Well, it was the 80s, so I guess I don't know. I guess it was the 80s, but
yeah,
no. Also, her cousin did when she called her cousin what seemed to be like late at night
hmm
to ask her to finish reading like the end of the Mosshead Girl story. The fact that her cousin actually like
did it,
decided to read
yeah,
her the story and what
yeah,
seemed to be like in the middle of the fucking night,
mm.
which I thought that was cool. You called me at 2 o'clock in the morning, but like,
You'll
can you
get
finish
boop
the
boop.
like
Like no, that's when the line is busy. You gonna get doo doo doo. Like
you gonna get hit with a my man. Sticky
yes, like
on, but
calling me at
yeah,
this ungodly hour. But
the dynamic her and her family was it was interesting just because
mm,
her uncle basically went in on her just because she was like watching y'all argue over this stuff is stupid. Like
right,
if she feels like it's stupid, that's her opinion. Like
right,
you can't fucking belittle her for her opinion. Like
yeah.
it wasn't
But
like stupid.
yeah, I think it was more so because like I guess like there is a disconnect between like what our ancestors did and what how we feel now. And I think that's not just with black culture or black American culture, but like there is like a disconnect of like while our ancestors believed this and they did this, but like we no longer believe that. Like we kind of think of it as like not nonsense, but like kind of wild. Like, oh, you believe that like if your hand itches, that means you're getting money. Like what? Like that's crazy. But like some people actually felt that way. Some people actually made black eyed peas and collard greens, on the new year to like hopefully make money out of that, as a superstition to make money in the new year. So I feel like it kind of spoke to that disconnect where it's like um some millennials and Gen X kind of like is it Gen Z or Gen X? I think it's Gen Z. But like no, I think it's Gen X. Whatever, the one after millennials. We kind of have a disconnect from like our, older family members who did kind of believe in these things, you know. So,
Yeah. hmm I
but
know the last
yeah.
superstition. I think I was like sweeping the floor or something.
Mhm.
He was like, "Oh, the broom touched your foot, so you have to spit on the broom." And I was like, "Nigga,
Yeah.
fuck on my face." Oh man, then gonna continue to sweep the floor like,
Right.
yo, trifling as fuck.
Right. I'm trying to think of some more. Um, don't
Don't
leave your
walk under
hair
a ladder.
around. Huh?
Oh, I said don't walk under a ladder. I do that all the fucking
Oh
time.
yeah. I
Or
feel like that's like a safety thing though.
remember when actually it's don't split the pole when you're walking with a group of people.
Yeah, don't split
Remember
the pole.
he would like go walking, and I remember you split that pole, and he was like, "Oh no, 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 go back around like this." Like nigga, ain't nothing gonna happen. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I was thinking of burning your hair on the kitchen eye, or the kitchen
Oh, the
yeah,
stove.
yeah, because you don't
I,
want somebody to get hold of your hair and mess with your life, I guess.
my goodness.
Yeah. But I
I
just
also when I think it was who was talking to Anna, and they told her that in some religions, like a person hair holds like all of their thoughts. And I was like, I think that was her uncle that told her that.
I want to
And so
say it
they
was
were,
maybe the Native American
mm-hmm,
tradition, like
mm-hmm,
culture, or maybe it was
yeah.
early African
I
culture,
think
or not
I
early
think
African culture,
yeah,
but when we
I
first
think
got
he did.
here.
It was the Native Americans, and I think he did saying like some African tribes, some African clans, like it's believed that like a person hair like holds all of their thoughts. So could you
Hmm.
imagine like I don't know, you walk into a salon for a sew-in, and then you become possessed by the hair that has been. That's just crazy as fuck.
I just think
Like
it's so interesting because like these folklore really do, like, I mean, you can look at them and be like, oh, that's nonsense or that's crazy. But like I do think it speaks to the times. It does, because I feel like folklore is really just, it's almost like it's symbolic or a metaphor of how you truly feel. Like it's just a different way of processing information. So it's like,
Right.
oh, like this is, your hair contains your thoughts, but it just shows, like, I guess the attachment that people have to their hair, and like
Mm-hmm.
how your hair is symbolic of your, it's a way to express yourself. And it's
Mm-hmm.
a way for people to, identify you with something else. So like I like how, like, that's why I really like, that's why the slave lore kind of really interested me, because I love how they use these stories to kind of interpret the world around them. I do like this new it's kind of like we're stepping into a renaissance of black horror just
Mm-hmm.
in the past couple years. Like, I feel like, of course, with Jordan Peele's Get Out, and then Us, and then
Mm-hmm.
we had this movie, and then we also had Antebellum, which wasn't good apparently. But they tried. And yeah, I know there are a couple black horror, I don't know if there are movies, but like in like series, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, on Hulu. And I just want them to keep
I
coming.
agree.
I love horror, and I love
Mm-hmm.
to see black people in
Mm-hmm.
things. I love to see myself reflected in media. So, you
Right.
know, it's a perfect combination.
Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
So remember the scene towards the end of the movie where Anna was being chased by, I think, Zora, Rosalind, and I couldn't tell who the other lady was with the weave. Oh, I think it was Sister Girl.
Zorro. Yeah, I think it was Sister Girl.
When they were in like I think they were in the office building, whatever. But
Mhm.
remember, she ran into like that studio and she saw the gun under the desk,
Yeah.
and she thought she was about to like blow their asses away. And it turns out that it was a fucking lighter. Whoever placed that damn lighter under that desk need their ass whooped. Why the fuck would you put a lighter that looks like a gun under a desk? She really thought she was about to smoke their ass, and it turned out to be a goddamn lighter. So shout out
Like
to her, because she just knew she was about to die. So she laid on the floor, she puffed that cigarette, and was like,
she was hitting that cigarette hard as hell throughout this movie. I was like, you better go ahead dealing with all this shit.
it's funny how when um when she first got the install, I think Kelly Rowland's character and Laverne Cox told her not to get it wet.
Right.
And then she, oh shit, like I could set off the fire alarm system. And then
With
she,
that.
yeah, and that's just how she got rid of it. So I thought that that was smart. Because honestly, in that situation, I would have never thought of that. I
Right.
really, she was just about to get took the fuck out.
Right.
Girl smart on her feet. I'll give it that.
I also feel like the water in a way was symbolic of like resetting you back to like your
Mm-hmm.
natural self, I guess. Like, the water gets rid of the weave, it gets rid of the,
Mm-hmm.
I guess the processing that you do to your hair when you get a perm. So it kind of like restores you back to like, you know, your original self.
As she took Zora and them the fuck out, she went back to her auntie house and was natural as fuck. Then
Right?
she scarf back on. My goodness, I don't
She
blame
went
her.
right back to that scarf.
And then her cousin, what was her name? Linda was like, "Oh girl, I
Hmm.
want to like, don't do it,
Mm-mm.
bitch,
Don't
don't
do
do
it.
it."
Don't do it. There it go. There it go. Like, like,
Damn, don't do it. It ain't worth it.
right. It really isn't.
I'm not confused, but I'm surprised that Vanessa Williams was experiencing that because the quality of her hair, the
Hmm.
quality of Dora's hair, and the quality of Anna's hair, two totally different wigs. Two totally different wigs. So
what
let me just
was what was Anna rocking? Bella Dream.
Bella Dream. She's happy.
She's happy
Oh,
hair. Go naked hair
maybe go naked.
with Kenya Moore's
Zora,
products.
yes, and I feel like Zora was just stopped at a wig supply or a wig store on her way to work, and
Did she
the
just
person,
throw the wig up in the air and let it land on her head?
no Doja Cat,
No
no
Doja
Doja,
Cat.
no Doja Cat, but that was a fucked up wig. That was a pretty
Oh
fucked up.
my god. Um,
Also, the part where they were in the meeting and Zora said like no more Anita Baker, I was like, you did not have to come from Miss Baker like that.
right?
Break the fuck out of Anita Baker. My goodness.
She did not have to come for that. Her house probably dirty as hell. I read this. I saw this tweet. It was like, "Who?" I just heard of Anita Baker, and somebody was like, "Their house probably dirty as hell." Like, because you know your mama woke you up listening to Anita Baker. It's time to clean the house. It's funny. Like towards the end, like that shit was I was dying. Just the effects and like when Anna and Zora when they came together and like their hair was like doing all that shit and it was like connecting. It was like their hair was communicating. When I tell you I was screaming in my I was screaming like that shit was so funny. Like I was dead, but yeah, it's worth the watch. I think. I don't think it's written well. To be honest, like to really like if you really dissect the movie, it's not written well, and there are some technical mistakes in my opinion, just with the grain filter and just some of the editing choices. I personally wouldn't have done, or I personally don't think are nice, but I think it's a good time. And we need movies like that.
True, very true. I do want to just add one more, make one more point.
Mhm.
I mentioned that Anna might have always had that confidence in her. She just didn't
Mhm.
know. And I just thought about her initial interview with Zora, and
Mhm.
Zora basically asking her like about the network and all of that. And as soon as Anna started talking about like the job itself, you could see like that confidence. It was already there when she
Mhm.
started talking about the job, and she knew what the fuck she was talking about.
Well, she started their popular show. She
Yeah,
started the show that he was on. Like, so
mhm,
it's like you're invisible until you do this thing,
mhm,
and then now people see you for who you
mhm,
are. So I think it's really all about identity.
mhm.
So yeah, I wouldn't write a thesis on this movie, but it's it's worth the watch. I think personally.
Yeah, I think I'm more so fascinated by like the slave lores,
Mm,
like the folklores. Like I kind of want to go find like a book of old like urban legends and
right.
like folklores and just read through them.
Right. Yeah. Me too.
It's this movie. It was interesting. It was definitely interesting.
That was our review of Bad Hair 2020 on Hulu right now. If you liked our review, if you keyed with us, if you carried with us, feel free to like, comment, or subscribe, or share. We need it. But no, I'm just playing. But yeah, we enjoyed talking about this movie with y'all. Look forward to more movies from us. We're definitely gonna do one more horror movie before um this season ends, so look out for that.
Mhm.
And one of the best ways to look out for that is to subscribe and click that notification bell, because that'll let you know when
Click,
we back in
click,
the
click,
building.
click.
um Tracking these hoes. No, I'm just playing. No, but yeah, we enjoyed talking about this movie with y'all. Let us know how you felt about the movie in the comments. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agreed with what we had to say, if you disagreed, let us know. And
Yeah.
we'll definitely be there to respond. So um this has been Key and Carrie. I've been Damon,
I'm Troy.
and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.